Hello everyone, it's DuckFaden07. Today we are playing a Brew again. Okay, so let's just see what is it all about this time. So I would say this build, this brew, I just 5-0'd with it, and it's a Rhino style Brew that is trying to have territorial Kavu as our only cascade target, but we only have 4 cascade cards in this build, and it's only Shardless Agent. We, it's primarily because I want to be able to play a Force of Negation in this deck. That's the reason why there's no Blood Red Elf. But also in this build, we have the One Ring and the Omelette, already Omelette and One Ring as our 4 drops. So Blood Red Elves would mean we have too high of a curve. Okay, so just Shardless Agent in this build, the Shardless hitting cow every time. It's among best uses of Shardless in Magic, together with finding the Crashing Footfalls, of course. But hitting Kavu in the zoo builds is what you really want to be doing. Okay, so aside from that, we have some usual stuff: a Sign of Draco, Leyland Binding, and there are some Furies to help us, along with the Force of Negation, to help us with the high curve and to help us stabilize in the matchups that are when the opponent is the aggressor. Of course, sometimes you just have the territorial Kavu turn 2, Shardless into Kavu turn 3, protected by Force of Negation, Sign of Draco, or Leyland Binding, and then you are the aggressor. You are playing a tempo game, but all these creatures are very valuable on their own, like Kavu, Scion, Omnat, and also Agent getting Kavu every time, and Fury. And they're pretty hard to kill for some of the decks, and uh, usually decks have to use a lot of resources to get rid of it, like pitch casting Fury, Solitude, stuff like that, or if they have Leyland Bindings. But we have Leyland Bindings so far on. Okay, so um, what else is going on here? We have some Fire Ices here. I think Fire Ice is very good at the moment. Very good solution to the Bowmasters, killing both Orc and the Bowmaster. So it also fits this curve pretty good with sometimes you're just stealing your opponent's turn 3 to go into Shardless on turn 3, and but also it's a good removal that is not getting hit by the Cascade, and I think this is pretty nice card to play at the moment. We have some Lorien Revealed and Timeless Dragon as a way to stay a bit lower on the lands. So I kind of cut 3 lands for these 4 cards, 2 Lorien's Revealed and 2 Timeless Dragons. I would probably play 25 lands in this build if it weren't for this card. So I think these are good. Also, the plane cycling dragon lets us play a bit better around Blood Moon, and of course, Lorien Revealed can also help with that. But it's primarily there to be able to stay a bit lower on lands and still have this card that is good late game top deck. So that is it. On the sideboard, we have some additional counter magic in the Mystical Dispute. We have some more pitch spells, Endurance, Force of Figure, Boseiju as another solution to the Blood Moon, and Rest in Peace as our only 2-mana spell. So, post board, when you really need Rest in Peace, I think it is a very impactful and good card. So in the post board games, when you board those in, you will have more chance to fight them because Shardless Agent might be able to hit them with a Cascade. I think I had a pretty good use of this, and I'm very happy with it so far. So I'm definitely sticking to the Rest in Peace in the sideboard. Plus the Endurance +3 endurance and the rest in peace means I feel like I have pretty good post-board games against those graveyard-dependent decks. Okay, so that is it. I just finished a 5-0 league with this list in the first try, and we are going to go through the games and see how they went. All the games were 2-1, pretty close. I think in one or two matches I had I had a series of misclicks, maybe a misplay or two also, but we'll see while we go through it. Okay, so just a friendly reminder to subscribe if you haven't yet, if you like the channel, if you want to see more of this stuff. Thank you. Okay, so first match it was against a Tron, very popular deck right now on the Pro Tour and on the MTGO. Okay, so I am able to go for the Fire Ice. I think because of the Fire Ices and the Force and the bindings, I think that this deck has a pretty decent Tron matchup. Also, one ring can help there. So I went turn 3 for the Kavu. Opponent did get the Tron on their turn 3. I was now able to start attacking, and I had the opportunity to use another Fire Ice to tap their land, make them have a bit less mana. I was in a decent situation here. I had Leyline Binding to kill their Ensnaring Bridge. And then also I was able to attack a card immediately and use my One Ring, but opponent played another card, finding the Boulder Branch Golem. I didn't expect that. Yeah, but that's what I had. They just played the Golem. They were on 11 life at the moment. Gained a lot more life with the Golem, but now they were on 0 cards in hand, and I had some pretty good answers to their stuff. So I was able to just go for the Fury, kill the Karn, attack them face for 7, force them to top deck something if they don't want to die. So even if they top deck something, I still have a lot of cards, one ring on the field, and good cards in hand. So opponent didn't top deck anything, just a Giganta. So I was able to kill them next turn. And that was the game. Okay. So that was game 1 against Tron. Let's watch the game 2. Had to mulligan this one, of course. I kept a better one. I had the binding, Kavu plus Force of Figure. Pretty good. If they went for the Expedition map, I would consider using the Force, but just hard casting Kavu turn 2 here, I think it's really good. Opponent played Expedition map, and that's why I changed my mind to not actually play the cow now, but to prevent them from getting the Tron. Opponent played Oblivion Stone, and unless they get the Tron, they will not be able to to activate the Oblivion Stone next turn. They did get to play the One Ring. Unfortunately, I had the solution for their Oblivion Stone, so I definitely had to use that one first and wait to use my rings until the next turn. I really needed a solution for their One Ring, but didn't find it. Went to discard land to just find another one. Opponent drew more cards, finding the Tron, a lot of cards here. And I must say I was in a pretty bad situation at the moment. Opponent drawing 3 cards with 1 ring next turn. Usually for a lot of the zoo builds previously, Tron was a very easy matchup. Obviously Tron got a lot better with the 1 ring. It is definitely among decks that has best use of it. Also, my draws weren't ideal. I mean, the ring is great, but still, I need solutions for their ring at the moment. Didn't get them. Then I did jam my ring, start drawing some cards too, but them having the Tron and a lot of cards in the hand, I think, yeah, it just wasn't very difficult for them to end the game early. And yeah, they just needed 1 or 2 good spells to really finish this game. And they did get it. They cast the Sundering Titan, and I immediately concede. I just wasn't able to fight with it, so it is among best spells against zoo builds. So it was time for game 3. Okay, in the game 3, um, I had a decent hand. I had turn to Sign of Draco protected with the Force of Negation. I'm pretty happy with this. Opponent goes for the expedition map. I definitely wanted to use the force here, but I had a second one. It was cool still. Just 1 card in hand for the opponent. I was able to jam the territorial cow here. I didn't want to discard any of the cards in my hand. I just wanted to play play my Scion and see what I'll get, see what draws I'll get next turn. Opponent put a counter on the blast zone to be able to kill the cow. I was fine with this. I still had a Scion pressuring my opponent, uh, making a pretty good clock. I went for the Fire Ice here, so opponent used the mana to get the land. And now they did have the Urza plant, but still they were missing 1 land, 1 Tron piece. Okay, opponent goes for a Boseiju on my Scion, but it was okay for me because I now I had a 4 mana to cast 1 ring, also had a Force of Vigor, which is pretty good in this situation. But didn't really need it after I drew my Leyline Binding, was pretty happy with the draw. I discarded the Force, hold of mana for the Leyline Binding when they tried to draw a card. I was then able to cast the 1 ring of my own and cast the Leyline Binding in response to their 1 ring ability. Cast the land, get 4 life, cycle 1 Charless from my hand, and make opponent have a solution for my board state for the next turn. Opponent just goes for the Giganta, and I draw some cards with the ring. I was very happy with my hand. 2 Force Figure, 1 I was able to hard cast, second pitch cast, and I decided to trade with the Giganta with my Kavu and just kill opponent the next turn, and yeah, that was it. My opponent concedes, that was the game. Okay, so let's go check out the match 2. Okay, I was playing a second. Uh, didn't have a early interaction here, but I did have a Fury, so that's pretty good. I said there was a game where I did some series of I had a series of misclicks. In this match, in the game one, opponent went for the Grizzlebrand, drawing a lot of cards. I played my turn. I wasn't able to get rid of this Grizzlebrand. I just played the Charles into Kavu, and the opponent had the Ephemerate to hold the Grizzlebrand on the field, which was pretty good. They had like 14 cards at the moment, attacking me with the Grizzlebrand. I continued playing for a couple more turns, but didn't really have much chance here with the opponent with so much cards, and they draw into the Gorios to bring back the Atraxa for the immediate kill, so that was the game. A pretty good start for the opponent. Now I had a Kavu turn 2 with the Force of Negation backup. Pretty happy with this. I find the Zagotrium. I top deck the Rest in Peace, but I wasn't able to cast it right now, which was okay. Have a lot of lands in my deck and a lot of chances to get it, especially with the Kavu ability. I decided to discard one of my own nuts. I already got Temple Garden, so I resolved it, and this was a pretty good news for me. Opponent goes for Tainted Indulgence, plays the Grief, uses the Ephemerate, but this was all after after I had the territorial Kavu on the field, which is very good value. And now I was able to cast Fire Ice, kill the Bowmasters, and the Leyline Binding the Grief, so they can't go for Ephemerate and Grief. Opponent finds the explosives to get rid of both Rest in Peace and the Kavu. But I top deck the Shardless Agent. Shardless Agent is great in this deck, finding the Kavu, which is essential for this build. I fire the Solitude and continue attacking with Shardless, putting my opponent on 2 life. Opponent draws 4 cards, but didn't find a solution for Shardless, and Shardless was lethal next turn, so that was the game. Okay, I had to mulligan this one and this one too. Sorry, I didn't mulligan this one. It was a Brave Keep, one lander, but I was on the draw, and the hand was good with the Endurance and a couple of Fire Ices. Opponent goes for the Grief Ephemerate, but they weren't able to avoid me killing the Grief, so I had a solution for that, which was pretty good. They just went for the Watery Grave, and now I had the Endurance available. I just tap their Rogentram, prevent them from playing the Fairy or whatever. And I get another Endurance. So having 2 Endurance means I was able to gem one of them, hold the second one in hand in case they have a Goryo, but I was able to cast this one to start attacking, which is really important. And also got the Territorial Kavu, which was great top deck, and now I was able to hold, I had also a land to hold another Endurance. Opponent discarded the Atraxa. Every Shardless in this situation means I have option to find the Rest in Peace, which is, I feel like, an essential card for this matchup. I attacked with Territorial Kavu, exiling Atraxa from their graveyard. So didn't definitely want to do draw this card. And that way I still have good use for endurance, playing it in the combat phase, not being afraid of them top decking the Gorios, because they only have 2 cards in the hand at the moment. They play another Fable. I find another land and I had 3 attackers now with another endurance in hand, which basically made their hand impossible. They went for Tainted Indulgence, double Tainted Indulgence here, not drawing into solution for my 5th attacker endurance in the hand. They did go for the Orcish Bowmasters, which was enough for them to survive the turn. But I had another endurance which was lethal, so that was the game. Okay, so let's go check out match 3. Okay, so with a basic island here and Timeless Dragon in hand, I was able to go for plane cycling, which can be really relevant in the Blood Moon matchups. And Timeless Dragon has been pretty good in those games, helping find the planes, but also being a good uncounterable threat for 4 mana you can play from the graveyard. Has been pretty nice. This game I was against a Junt. I decided to go for the Omnat here, top decked the Force of Negation, and I was pretty happy with this hand, being able to go for the Fury next turn. I have the Force for their turn. I decided to use the Force of Negation on Terminate here, but they had another way to kill my Omnat. It was still fine for me. I had option to untap and cast either Fury or Kavu, but I really wanted to start attacking with Kavu, getting the ability and hoping for opponents to. They probably had Bolt in hand because they went for the Ragavan Dash, so I decided to just tap it with the Fire Ice and attack with Kavu, put opponent on the 5 life. Now I top decked the One Ring. I had double option here, either go for the Fury or the One Ring. I assumed they had Fire Ice, but I decided to go for the Fury anyway. Really wanted it. I think it was a good play to get rid of the Vren 6 there. I went for a Territorial Cow attack here. Probably should have played Scion before the attack to get trample, but this was fine too. I was able to kill the Orcish Bowmasters and present 2 lethal attackers for the next turn. And yeah, my opponent didn't find a solution for this, so that was a win. Okay, in the game 2, I had not a great hand, but I was like able to keep Zagot Triumph in my hand to cycle it. So I decided to go for Rogren Triumph here, so I can just cast the Leyline Binding with a tapped Triumph if needed, but I top decked the Scion, which was a good top deck in this situation. And so next turn I had opportunity to cycle the Triumph. If needed, they find a solution for my Scion in Shieldred Edict. I kept top decking threats, which was pretty good, but they had a lot of removal, just a lot of inquisitions and removal, which I think works well for me here because I probably have a better late game with the Omnats and the rings. Opponent cracks the spell bomb and finds another removal for the Kavu. So at this point, probably just trying to find one ring or more creatures is also great. I go for the cycle immediately, hoping to find another Scion or Kavu. I did find the Shardless Agent, which was great, and still had the Leyline Binding in my hand, but unfortunately opponent casts Turak. Turak is great against this type of decks. And I cast my Leyline Binding in response, so I make Turak smaller and top deck the fire to get rid of the Turak. But now I was on 0 cards in hand, losing my Shardless, and opponent still had Giganta in hand. And the Tarmogoyf, I did find a Scion, but I really needed either Omnat or the One Ring at this point to be able to turn game around. I did get the Omnat and the One Ring, which is pretty good. But yeah, this is the game where I did the misclick. The opponent attacks, and I wanted to block with my Sign of Jaco, but I accidentally skipped through the blockers phase and didn't get a chance to block, so I lose this game. I could have easily won it if I resolve the One Ring next turn, get the land for Omnat, start gaining life. It would be pretty much game over. But unfortunately, I skipped the blockers phase. Okay, let's check out the game 2. Okay, so did we already watch this? Yeah. Okay, sorry. We need to check out the game 3. Okay, so had to mulligan that one. I had to mulligan the 6 cards too. Went on 5, keeping just a very sketchy hand with a couple of Leyland bindings. But as already said, I had a better late game, so having 2 Leyland bindings is actually fine because I get to get rid of their early threats. I did find a Territorial Kavu. I was happy with this top deck. And Inquisition in their hand was useless. They went for the Bowmasters. Didn't mind that. Bowmasters not doing much against this deck except hitting the One Ring, and I also have the Fire Ice and the Fury as a couple of really good solutions for it, in addition to the Leyland Binding, of course. I was able to I got rid of the Bowmaster, so I was able to start looting with the Kavu. And I also, I think, yeah, I also had a misclick here, make enabling them to ping me a second time, ping my Kavu second time, and finishing me with a territorial Kavu. But yeah, my hand was, my top decks were pretty good, better than the opponents, and I was able to still win the game. But it was definitely awkward, another awkward misclick, and yeah, just didn't. It made things very complicated for me. I I would usually be in a lot better situation than this one. Opponent now had a 5/5 orc and equipped with a shadow spear, So definitely this orc can get out of hand pretty quickly. Opponent played the Pride Spellbomb. I went for the end of turn Endurance, exiling their graveyard and playing Omet on my turn, putting another counter on the Orc army. Opponent plays a Shielded Edict and I decide to double block the Orc token, killing my Omet, and opponent decided to let the Kavu live. So now I was able to start attacking with Kavu. I had my Scion. Opponent did have a lot of life, but and a solution for Scion, but I was still very happy with my Kavu and the Shardless in hand, finding another one, making this actually 2-turn clock. Put my opponent on 13. I go to attack with all creatures. Opponent decides against blocking the Shardless Agent, and I was able to finish them off immediately with the Fire Ice, so that was the game. Okay, let's check out match 4. Okay, in the match 4, Scion plus Kavu, a lot of good cards here. Timeless Dragon, being able to find me another land if I need it. I think this is pretty good. I was against Dimir Control this time. And also Timeless Dragon worked pretty well against in some matches against Dimir Control, being able to eternalize from the graveyard without them being able to counter that ability. It was relevant at times playing around their counterspell. So I went for Territorial Kavu, but they had a counterspell there. So next turn I played Sino Jaco, holding a mana for the Lorens revealed. This way, if they tap out for the ring or something, I'm able to go for a land, to pick up a land and play the one ring. Sino Jaco is really good card in the Dimir Control matchup. Uh, it's really hard for them to get rid of it. They have the 2 Shielded Edicts in the main. They also have a Damnation post board, but that's basically it. Other than that, they can block it with the Murktide Regent. But I also have some useful cards in that matchup. So I just went for a Forest here, casting my Shardless Agent, holding the Fire Ice. So I find the Territorial Kavu. With the Shardless, decide to go for the Ice in their turn. Opponent kills my Kavu, and I successfully tap the Murktide, which enabled a pretty decent attack phase for me, putting my opponent down to a 7 life. They did actually get a subtlety to block my Charlotte, but I was pretty happy with that play because now I was able to resolve my Timeless Dragon. Opponent decides to attack with the Murktide, which I think wasn't very good choice because I got another Fire Ice to tap the subtlety and attack them for lethal. I had exactly 9 damage here. Opponent had 0 cards in hand. Also a Force of Negation. And the Timeless Dragon with the Scion has Vigilance, so I was also able to just attack, then block the Murktide, and then Eternalize the Dragon and have a pretty good chance of racing them. So that was the game. Okay, let's check out the game 2. Against Dimir Control, always pretty interesting matches, a pretty fun matchup for most of the zoo builds, including this one. I got a Scion territorial Cobble. It's much easier for them to get rid of the Cobble, so definitely want to put a lot of my hopes into the Scion Draco. Opponent shocks in Watery Grave. I go for the Zagotrion, find a domain and start off with the territorial Cobble. I prefer them using counterspell on Cobble, so I decide to play that first. I found a third Fire Ice, so I wanted to hoping for them to either play the ring, but they decide to put the one ring into their graveyard and take push and subtlety. I start off with wanted to Fire Ice their land and tap a blue land on my turn and try to prevent them from countering my Sino Draco. I did not get a land and I decided to go for this strategy again. I just tapped the Watery Grave, hoping to find a land, and then on my turn go for another Fire Ice, and then try to resolve the Scion, but they did get another land, so they still were able to hold 2 blue mana. But yeah, I had a second Scion now, so I decided to go for this. At least they weren't able to go for the subtlety here, which I think was pretty important. Because they had that subtlety in hand, and now they drew the one ring. I was fine with this, but unfortunately they had a Minamo too. So the Minamo meant they're able to draw 3 cards immediately, which was pretty bad against my Leyland Binding. So now they were able to, they drew 3 cards, so they had the blue card for the subtlety. They play Sauron's Ransom. So all of this just didn't play out very well for me. Uh, decide to put subtlety into their graveyard and take Sour Ransom and Lauren Revealed. A pretty good choice for the opponent. So now I wanted to hold the Force of Negation, so I play my Sign of Draco. My opponent put the subtlety into their graveyard, but they had another one in their hand, which was pretty good. They go for the Lorien Revealed. I cast my Force of Negation. They still had a Sauron Ransom. And it was another good Sauron Ransom. They put Murktide into the graveyard and dress down counterspell in their hand. But they top deck another one ring from the top of a library. Together with the Minamo, it is very hard for me to deal with this. So I did find the Leyland Binding again, but Minamo is just so good with the one ring. And the opponent just finds a billion of cards and they find Damnation. Now they had multiple counter spells, stuff like that, so it was definitely a game over for me. I had to solve this in the game 3. So every match in this league went to the game 3. Obviously, it is a lot easier to win when you're on the play. But yeah, I had that misclick in in the match 3 where I wasn't able to block opponent's creature because of the misclick and immediately died. That definitely directly lost me that game. I was able to resolve the sign on Draco. That is pretty important in this matchup. I went for Misty Rainforest, cast my Shardless Agent. This way, even if they get the Charlotte Edict, they're not able to kill my Scion with it if they don't, because my Charles has hexproof. They did have Dress Down to kill my cow, which was pretty good. I just attacked with both of my creatures. Putting opponents on 9 life. They didn't trade with the Charles because my Charles had the hexproof. Okay, I had the Fire Ice in my hand, which is very good solution for the Bowmasters. But I decided to just go for draw a card here. And I play Leyline Binding on the Subtlety. And now opponent decides to trade with the opponent decides to trade with the Orc. And I played my One Ring. They had the Bowmasters, but they were very low on life at the moment. So they played the One Ring of their own. But I played the One Ring first. I had a lot of draws. Here, opponent also got a couple of Bowmasters abilities, but it was fine. I passed the turn holding the Dispute, and they went down to 4 because of the One Ring, and I had the Scion for lethal next turn with the Dispute backup, so they didn't find a solution for the Scion, and that was the game. Okay, so let's check out the final game, the trophy game of this league. Opponent was playing Hammer Time. He used to be one of the best decks in the format. Now I just don't see it very much in the leagues. Opponent had turn 1 Giver of Runes into turn 2 Stoneforge Mystic, finding color complete. Pretty good start. I decide in this situation to go for a Fire Ice on the Giver, letting them hit me with the Caldra. I have the Leyline Binding to deal with Caldra and the Force of Negation to prevent anything crazy opponent tries to do. They go for the Urza Saga, play the Springdrift drum, that was fine. So I start the turn with the Leyline Binding and playing a Scion Draco and holding double force for their turn. Unfortunately, they also find Urza Saga, and that definitely made my decision to force the Sigarda's aid very easy. I top deck a land, and now I was able to cast my Omnat. Finding a Shardless Agent, I was able to start attacking, but I decided to stay back because they had the Inkmoth Nexus, so they could possibly go for lethal with the Nexus, so I decided to stay back with the Scion. Opponent plays the Sentinel, makes their construct 5/5. I needed the land here. It would be ideal if I was able to cast both Fury and the Shardless, but it was still okay. Opponent plays another Hammer, just making their constructs larger. I went for a double. Sorry, not for a double block. I went for to block everything. I had another Charles in my hand. I was happy with them doing this kind of trade, and they played the Surge, preventing my red creatures from dealing damage. So I traded with the Scion and the Charles for one of the constructs, and they got to kill one of my cows, but this was still fine. They did have 11-11 Sentinel, but I had some jumpers and I had a few turns to chump block, but opponent the Forge Anew was too much, making them able to equip instant speed hammer. So that was the lethal on the next turn. So had to win the next 2 games to get the trophy. Okay, I had to mulligan the starting hand, keeping a decent 6 with the binding and Draco and the ring. I feel like Misty Rainforest is probably among it is fine, but I like to play the Misty first in most of situations, or sometimes I play the Flooded Strand first if I know that I have to be able to get the Overgrown Tomb with my fetch. Opponent plays the Shadow Spear, and I decide to immediately get rid of their Giver of Runes. Giver of Runes is definitely it can be a problematic creature for this matchup, so I definitely immediately want to get rid of that. Opponent plays the Stoneforge, finds the Caldra. I decide to hold the Boseiju for to kill their stuff and just play my island and one ring. Get a draw immediately and start attacking with the Sino Draco. They are now on the 3-turn clock. And I have the Boseiju and the ring to deal with their stuff. So it is very hard for them to block Sino Draco effectively. They have to find Ornithopters to jump and similar. So I play my Cowl. So they can't really attack here unless they go for the Shadow Spear equip. They decide to go for the attack anyway. I'm holding the Boseiju, but I didn't want to risk them having a hammer on the Caldra and finishing me off, plus with the protection for my Boseiju. So I just decided to jump with the Kawu there. I had the ring, so I was drawing a lot of cards, which meant it wasn't problematic for me in this situation to jump with the Kawu. I decided to pitchcast the Fury, killing a Ginger Brute and the Stoneforge Mystic. Opponent didn't gain a life with the Ginger Brute, which means I have a kill next turn with the Scion, unless they go for a equip of Shadow Spear. They did have actually a Colossus Hammer. I played my Omnat there, gained some life. I had a Boseiju and a Leyline Binding for a response. So opponent finds another hammer. I just gain some life, putting myself on 16, forcing them to do the first play. They go for a hammer. And now I play one of my removals. Getting rid of Caldra, they play the Surge, but in response, I hit one of their hammers. Disabling the lethal this turn for them, and they concede. I had a swing back lethal, so that was the game. And now let's check the final match for the trophy. No lands, so I had to mull this. Keeping a decent 6 cards, I decide to get rid of the Omnat to keep the Charles, Cow, and the Ring. No removals, pretty risky. I was hoping them not having turn 2 kill. Just I was not able to do anything about this. Opponent actually had Sentinel on 1, Sigarda's 8 on 2, but no Hammer, luckily, which made possible for me to find a solution. I was able now to just play my territorial Kavu, and opponent did actually have a Colossus Hammer, but they were holding on it and played it when I tapped out. So I use this situation to just jump with the Kavu, prolong the game until I can resolve the one ring, but opponent played the Urza Saga there, making things a lot more complicated for me. Urza Saga means they'll get the two constructs, which will probably be large, and then get another hammer, and this, while having the Sigarda's aid. Also, the second Urza Saga is pretty nasty there. So I went to do a redraw with the Kavu because I was planning on playing the One Ring anyway. I let them draw a card with Esper Sentinel, can't pay 11 there. Opponent goes for a construct. I just resolve my One Ring and draw a card. So it is pretty interesting situation. I think them having two constructs there, but they decided to go for the Paradise Mantle so they can use the second Urza Saga to get another construct. I got Force of Vigor there, and now I had multiple options. I decided my best chance is for wait for them to um, create a construct so they don't have any mana open. I let them draw a card with the Sentinel, kill a Sentinel and the Urza Saga, prevent them from making another token, getting another hammer, which would be pretty bad. And yeah, so I went for the construct block there and had another Force of Vigor pitch cast, which enabled me to kill one of their constructs and killed the Colossus Hammer to make Forge a new waivers. So I pitch cast a Fury, killing their last construct, leaving them on the field just with a Forge a new and a Sigarda's aid with no hammers. Also had a Leyland Binding and a Force of Negation open for a lethal there. And the opponent actually did have a Pure Steel Paladin with another Urza Saga and another hammer, but I had too much at this point. Ring did its thing, drew a lot of cards, and that was it. Okay, so now I decided against using the Leyland Binding. I wanted to cast the Fury to kill the Paladin that way, and I was now able to. I wasn't able to really use the One Ring because it would kill me next turn. Also, I wasn't able to fetch because I was just on 4 life. And I was able to attack my opponent for 9 damage there, put them on 1 life and hold the Leyland Binding. Opponent just needed Opponent just needed 1 damage to finish me, but it's not possible for them to do this unless they have Gingerbrute, and I also have the Leyland Binding, so that was the game. I attack with everything, doing a redraw with the cow, also finding a Fire Ice to even kill them before the damage, so that was it. Okay, so that was it. That was last game. So for you who don't understand really, um, what is this build around? A lot of people asking me why not just play rhinos. When rhinos are popular, there is a lot of hate for rhinos, and if you're playing rhinos, you don't really have access to the turn 2 threat. And I think that these 8 creatures, Territorial Cow and Cyano Draco, are very strong when you can play them on turn 2, protect them with the Force of Negation. And I think this is great strategy. And also, still having access to your deck to the One Ring and the Omnat makes this deck have a great matchup against a lot of decks that are popular right now. So against other One Ring decks, obviously, whoever gets to resolve the One Ring first is at considerable advantage, and it is definitely a card that can grind out um, any other grinded deck just by resolving this. Tapping a few times, you get to such advantage that no opponent can really catch you anymore unless they're playing something really aggressive to finish you off before it becomes relevant. So I think being able to play these 8 threats on turn 2 makes it very hard for opponents to deal with them, especially now when there is a significant drop in the Unholy Heat. I think having Shardless Agent still in this Zoo deck helps with the blue card count for the Force of Negation, which I feel like is really important at the moment. Really good card to be able to play in the main. And Shardless Agent helps with the blue card count, but also gets you the cow every time, which is the cow is essential to this deck. Doing the redraws, also doing you're able to play cow and Scion on turn 2, which enables them to do some damage before the one opponent's One Rings hit the field. Often when you're on the draw, when you're playing Rhinos, you get to turn 3 play the Rhinos, but you pass the turn and they play the One Ring and you don't get the damage on that turn. That is the reason why a lot of players decided to go for the Questing Beasts and the Bone Crusher Giants, stuff like that. But I think that going this route too, with Cow and Sign of Draco, with the Force of Negation, backup, Leyland Binding, I think having also your Wandering there, all these cards are very good against opponents' Wandering, Leyland Binding, a Force of Negation, and a Wandering of your own. Also, like Dimir Control is very popular right now, and Sign of Draco is very hard creature for them to deal with. And that's it. Okay, so Furies as additional free spell that helps you survive the early game. But actually, this very similar list to this one before the One Ring did very good result in the March in the challenge. Won the challenge. So I already have I played that at that time before, and I had the good results with it back then too. So I know this deck works and it is good. I think the Lorien Reveal, the Timeless Dragon, One Ring, and Omnat are pretty good updates for this list. And I'm very happy with sideboard at the moment and overall how the deck works. And that's it. Okay, so another reminder to subscribe to the channel if you want to help. Click like, comment in the video, and that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.